This is the Startup Bootcamp. My name is Naeem Zafar. So goal today is to get you investor ready because many of you are coming from outside the United States and many of you are, actually just by raising hand, how many people don't live in US? So that's a good 70%. That's good to have this audience. So many of you are coming here to Silicon Valley and to TiE Inflect in hoping to raise money. So let me start by lowering your expectations. That ain't gonna happen. But that should not be your goal. Your goal should be not to raise money, but to learn how to connect with investors in a way they will care. And how do you talk to them? What do you have to say to them? And what's the mechanics of raising money? So that's what we're gonna get into that. So my own background is that I am an electrical engineer, went to Brown University, and I've been starting companies since I was 26. This is working on my 7th startup. This is in ag tech space, agriculture technology. This is IoT for ag tech. My last company was acquired by Oracle in mobile security space. If you have an iPhone with a touch ID, fingerprint sensor, we invented that. And that was, Apple bought that companies with 2 hands in between. The other company like QuickTurn, we took public. That's a hardware emulation company. So I've been helping entrepreneurs start companies and been, I think, on 35 advisory boards and multiple things like that. So continuously very much steeped in the ecosystem of Silicon Valley. So like I said, this visit could be quite interesting because it's not about you're gonna raise money in this visit because that's not how it happens. Raising money is like getting married. If it's happening too quickly, something is terribly wrong. So it needs to take a sweet time. This whole thing is about, every analogy about dating applies. You lean in a little bit, then you lean back a little bit. If you lean in too much, that's suspicious. That applies to investor as well as the entrepreneur. So it's a whole dance you have to learn to do. And dance cannot complete over the next 3 days or even a week, but dance can start. If you can intrigue enough investors that they want to learn more, you have accomplished something. So think about how you're going to accomplish, what we're going to accomplish in the next couple of days as you attend TiE Inflect. You can test your ideas. There are almost many people here. It's as simple as asking them, hey, what do you do? What are you working on? And people will tell you if they're from Silicon Valley. So you'll be able to answer that question and test what you're saying is, does it make sense? Does it fly? Your job is to crispen your message. Most people, when I talk to you, the answers I get, what do you do, are not crisp answers. They're long-winded answers. So let's test it, actually. Let's test on somebody. Who is here? Okay. What do you do, sir?
Verification engineer.
I'm an education engineer.
Verification
engineer. And you're not doing a startup?
I am doing a startup.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump from verification engineer to CEO.
All right. So let me see if any of these things work. They're live. That's good. See if I can drag them over there. Probably not, but okay. Yeah. So what does your startup do?
So my startup is not incorporated yet, but it's a blockchain and IoT startup, and we are working on developing medical adherence device which helps patients stick to the schedule. And we are going to use blockchain.
Who is bored already? Anybody bored yet? Yeah.
Only one person.
No, they're too polite. See, the thing is,
2 sentences.
Yeah, who cares?
Okay.
Don't tell me all that stuff. It's unnecessary. I'm not even interested yet. You need to answer this question with 2 things. What problem are you solving and who has this problem?
Okay.
Tell me again. What problem are you solving and who has this problem?
The problem we are trying to solve is being healthy. People are not being rewarded for being healthy right now.
You get to stay alive. That's your reward.
No, but you can actually get paid. You can get paid because there are insurance companies and pharmacy which can actually get the benefit from you being healthy.
That's too long an answer.
Okay.
People have lost interest.
Okay.
So thank you. This is only a demonstration. Anybody else wants to try? What do you do? Okay, gotta jump all the way over here, Mr. Observer. You're not even doing a startup, so.
I have a question.
Okay, questions. Okay. So what do you do?
So how many, I am a software professional in Bay Area for 15 years.
No, when I say what do you do, I mean what does your startup do? That's
Okay.
it.
So how many people have come from
Hold
outside?
on, hold on. What's going to come out of your mouth, will it change based on the answer you receive?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it will change. I would
Okay,
say.
that's
How
fine.
many people have come from outside, like from US to this is a new city? So what's the problem you're facing? Like what's the issue, right? When you come here, you need to search for your food, you want to travel it. That's the problem. If it's a new city, you have these issues there, right? So my platform will provide solution for that.
So does Yelp, so does Open Table, so does everything
You
else.
have to search for it. Here you will get a local people there and person there will going to solve it in my platform.
All right. Yeah, please. Jump over here. So again, this thing is very lame when you ask people, raise your hand if you blah, blah. Because you're going to say the same freaking thing regardless. So don't ask that question. It's just lame. Get to what problem are you solving, who has this problem. You have really 7 or 8 seconds to get their attention. Yes, go ahead.
Snakebite claims the lives of over 125,000 people every year, and I have a novel, low-cost molecule and process to solve this problem.
See, brilliant. Like it. It's to the point. It says exactly what she does, and really like it. This is what I want you to get to, that level of clarity. You're going to say you have to come pretty close to me by jumping high speed. So my last company, for example, Bitser Mobile. No, hold on. I'm in the middle of a sentence. My last company, Bitser Mobile. So this was my thing. When you're sitting at your desk in a company, you have access to all kinds of corporate information, data, and you're productive. The moment you leave at Starbucks, the only thing you can access at best is your email. What if you could access all your corporate assets and documents from anywhere on your mobile device? We solved that problem. So I didn't say how we solve it. I didn't talk about our backgrounds. So talk about a problem and who has this problem. Please go ahead.
So healthcare cost currently is hurting the employers throughout the country. And I'm developing a technology that will reduce that cost and help the employers to shop around better health coverage, not the health insurance, better health coverage for their employee population based upon their specific needs.
Okay, this has the other problem. This is so high level that it's totally vague and doesn't attract a next conversation. So it's good you started high level, you try to say, but go one level deeper because this is the point. You have to fly. You cannot fly too high because oxygen is low. You cannot fly too low because you run into buildings. So there's a certain, when airplanes fly, they fly between what? 22,000 and 39,000 feet. So there's a reason. So go now fly at 25,000 feet. Because you just flew at 65,000 feet. So come down to 22,000. Tell us what you do.
Creating the healthcare score for your employee population that will help better negotiate the contracts with the health coverage providers and health insurance companies.
Okay, I like that. So let me say, let's give him a hand. You see, good job. So let me say that in my own words. Let me see if you correct me if I'm wrong. So you can say today, an employer spends a lot of money for employee healthcare costs. But in 2 companies, on average, employees could be much healthier than a different company. Right now, they pay the same rate. What if there was a way to compute your average health index so you can negotiate better premiums? If we solve that problem. So think about that. See, you need to lead people to some place when they can nod their head up affirmatively, and then you say, we do this. This is enough for them to lean in and say, well, how do you do that? This is impossible. This can't be done. What about that? Now you have made them lean in. That's the trick. Devor, do you want to even try? You're my last example. All right. Because Devor has been asking this question to himself for the last 2 months.
So companies want to run actions very quickly based on live streaming data, right? It's very hard, it's very difficult to run a data-driven, real-time business making actions in real time. We help solve that problem, to process stream of events, find patterns, and execute real-time actions in response to event streams.
So it's close, but don't go away. See, the thing you described the problem, but which is still hard to understand, but okay. but you didn't try who has this problem. Because you're saying, I'm thinking about fly fishermen, or it's more salmon fishermen. Who's dealing with the streams? Which kind of streams are we talking about? So you have to bring people to the right sphere, then your sentence will make more sense. So start, who has this problem?
The problem, is relatively horizontal, so it exists across different industries. But we start with focusing on financial industry, right? So financials, the stream is a set of transactions that comes in. We find patterns, suspicious activities, fraud, money laundering, and things like that. They need patterns in event streams. They take actions like stop the transaction or create a suspicious activity report for regulators, things like that.
Okay, so this is getting better, but hopefully we'll polish it even more. But point was here, in the internet age, you're facing a stream of data, whether it's credit card transaction, financial transaction, online gaming, or traffic data. Can you analyze this stream of data like a fire hose in real time and make intelligent decisions if you need to? It's hard to do. We have solved that problem. It's my version of what you're saying, but something like that. You need to bring people into the right conversation point before you can do that. So we'll do more of this in a few minutes. I want to give you a little bit more data, then I'll go back to that. So you want to answer the question, what do you do? You'll be surprised in Silicon Valley, asking this question, what do you do, is as commonplace as saying, how is the weather? So in England, it's a polite thing, but Silicon Valley is polite to say, what do you do? And expect people to know what they're talking about. You cannot ask this question in London, say, what do you do? And people will look at you funny, like, who wants to know? You ask the same question in Moscow, they may say, like, who sent you? So this is not a normal question, but here it is a normal question. Try it on people. You'll be surprised that you will be enlightened. So you want to be able to talk about this in 15 seconds or less. What problem are you solving and who has this problem? So all of you should practice that. We're going to start the afternoon session by asking these questions again. It's very critical. This is maybe the most important tip I can give you for the TiE Inflect. If you can master this, how to say it correctly, and I want you to even write down your answer, because this will help you tremendously if you can write it down. So your game plan here for the next week or so when you are here is you're going to talk to people. Your first job is to figure out, are you in the target zone? Is this guy a potential investor, guy looking for a job, student? Who is this person? So you need to ask some question very quickly. It's a common mistake. You meet somebody, you start telling your whole life story, and guy was just looking for where's the bathroom directions. So it's very important, don't go down that rat hole. Figure out, are we talking to a seasoned entrepreneur or a potential mentor? So ask them some couple of the questions before diving into your own story. So you could make it a very productive event if you follow some of the simple rules. So let me define what I should consider for all of you visiting from outside Silicon Valley. How do you consider this a successful visit? So if you can accomplish 20 meaningful connections, which is more than just getting somebody's business card, but learning a little bit about who they do, why are they relevant to you, and you can able to pitch to 5 investors, which you may be able to accomplish even today, and find 1 or 2 people who may want to partner with you, other companies, you should declare that as a success. Yes, sir.
Can you share the slides later?
I do have printouts for you guys. So I wanted to make sure you were engaged and being good students. Then about halfway, I'll give you the handouts. Yeah. So now let's ask the question, are you prepared for meeting with investors? So this is your checklist. You need to have in your possession these 4 items. And each of these 4 items come in multiple shades of grays. For example, you have a 10-second elevator pitch, like we heard from a couple of people here, then there's a 30-second version. Because somebody says, like, what do you mean? Then you describe a little bit more, a 30-second version. You need to have both of them prepared. You don't start with 30-second version. Same thing with you have 1-page or 2-page executive summary, which basically give you a structure. What is your business about? What problem is it solving? Have you thought through the necessary pieces to make a business out of your idea? Remember, ideas are dime a dozen. Thinking about how to convert the idea to something which can be executed and can make money is harder. And that's what executive summary, which I'll show you what it looks like, helps you accomplish. Then you need to have a pitch deck. Typically, when you meet with an investor, even you get a half hour to an hour meeting, you really have about 20 minutes of speaking time, because you want to leave about 15, 20 minutes for discussion and questions. The guy will be late 5 minutes. He'll be heading out for 5 minutes. So you have 20 minutes of speaking time, so you do not want to have more than 15 slides. Why? Because you're not trying to close the deal. You're trying to intrigue him enough or her enough to have a second meeting. Going back to the dating analogy, what's the purpose of the first date? Despite common misconception, the only purpose of the first date is to get a second date. There is no other purpose of first date. Same thing applies with the investors. The only purpose of first investor meeting is to get a second meeting. So you want to intrigue them enough. You need the 15-slide presentation for your full face-on meeting so you can get the second meeting. The one-slide version is necessary because if you're meeting in a restaurant, it's pretty strange to whip out your laptop and fiddle for the power cord. You don't do that. This is where you need to take the one-slide version, slap it on the table, and able to tell the whole story. If you don't have a one-slide version, you can't tell the whole story. It's not going to work. So you should be able to always tell the whole story from a single slide. And 3-slide version is, if you need to email somebody a short, what does the company do? You have a 3-slide version. Or sometimes you only have 5 minutes. The person is late. Instead of half-hour meeting, you got 5 minutes. Use the 3-slide version. So you're always ready for all 3 things, depending on the situation. You don't know what you're going to whip out. And the last thing is you need an icebreaker. Why do you need an icebreaker? Icebreaker allows you to differentiate yourself from 15 other people they met who took 0 time to check even the guy's LinkedIn profile. But if you take a few seconds, look at his Twitter feed, Facebook, or LinkedIn, you may pick up 1 or 2 items which may be used as an icebreaker. For example, guy worked at AOL in 1997. You can make some kind of irrelevant joke about that. Turns out the guy played hockey in Dartmouth. You noted that. Turns out that something he did, he just sold his company 2 years ago. So just taking that time will allow you to separate yourself from the other 10 people who talked to, who had no clue about the person, took 0 time to research the person. So if you're ready with these 4 things, your probability of connecting is much higher than other people who may be trying to approach the same investor. So let's talk about what not to do. Don't be unnecessarily secretive. Most people, especially desis, tend to be pretty secretive for no reason at all. What do you do? Oh, we're working in technology. Yeah, duh. Well, what kind of technology? Oh, there's software. Well, what kind of software? Web. You wasted an opportunity to talk something meaningful. This is completely waste of time. And most people will be annoyed. Normal people who have no trouble with stuttering become suddenly confused, and it's not because they cannot speak it. They are trying to be secretive. They think it makes them more cool if they don't explain everything what they're doing. And I'm trying to at least address that point, that don't be secretive. Because what's confidential is what? See, look at your idea, whatever idea you're doing. There are 5 elements. What you do, why you do it, when you're going to do it, how you do it. Which of these 4 is the real secretive one? The how part. So don't say the how part. Nobody's asking you to say the how part. But what, when, why should be said. Don't be secretive about that. Because trust me, ideas are dime a dozen. It's the maniacal execution which is the hard part. So the fact is, just because you uttered the word and this other person was equally crazy as you and is going to execute this thing better than you, then you should make them a co-founder, because those people don't exist. So people get unnecessarily secretive, especially the first-time entrepreneur. By the time you're 3rd or 4th-time entrepreneur, you get over this very quickly. And you'll be surprised. Most people who are from Silicon Valley not visiting, ask them a question, what do you do? And you're going to get a meaningful, comprehensive answer. So this is what this is a precise point I'm making is, before you approach an investor, like coming to TiE Inflect, chances are you're going to run into an investor. Compute all that in your mind. Be ready with those, what I told you here. If you're ready with this 1-slide, 3-slide version, you have pre-computed what you're going to say. So don't be flabbergasted and trying to figure out what to say, because you should know what to say. Take a Saturday off, write it down, then you'll be ready. Other thing is, don't be annoyingly vague. We just talked about flying at 20,000 feet versus 65,000 feet. There's a level of clarity you should be able to impart. So point is, see, the point I'm making is, if you don't have clarity of mind, you end up using too many words. When people who have clarity of mind do not used to use a lot of words. So if you ask yourself repeating and going in a loop, maybe pause and clearly think, what am I trying to communicate? That's the point. The third thing is, don't be boring. Because most people are boring. They go on and on about something which I don't care about, and they can't even articulate well. So if you can follow these rules, not to be secretive, not to be vague, and not to be boring, you'll have a very successful stay here. So think about some of the things which could be, I want you to write down and practice, because they could be very relevant to you. Okay, so let's talk about investors. Most of you get excited, hey, let's talk to a venture capitalist. The fact is, venture capitalist is not the first stop. You have many other sources of funding before you go to VCs. They all have their own motivation. In the beginning, when you just have an idea in PowerPoint, only people who will invest in you will be friends, families, and fools. Because why? Because they like you. They don't really necessarily understand the business plan, but they're willing to invest you. So this is the source of every startup starts that way. Whether it's personal savings before something like that, or family gives you money, or some foolish people who don't understand just say, yeah. People who get excited in the elevator and end up going buying some stock based on the conversation they overheard. Those people. But later on, once you have some box that beeps, something which is moving, now you can take attention from crowdsourcing. If you have some hardware product, something which people can appreciate, then Kickstarters, things like that is a great way to raise money, also to validate your idea. Then angel investors could be the next source. Angel investors are who? These are rich people who have money left over after buying stocks and some bonds and some apartment buildings. They still have some money left over. And when you get old, at a certain age, you become invisible to young people. And that hurts. So a lot of these angel investors who are rich people have money. They want to be relevant. They want to be respected. They want to have knowledge which they want to impart. And angel investment is a great way to do that. Because you put maybe 50, 25, 50K, 100K in some company, these entrepreneurs want to come and pick your brain and talk to you, show respect, you feel pretty important. So you need to understand that and play on that, because they do have domain expertise, and sometimes you remind them a younger version of themselves. So they are a good source of the first 50, 100, 200, $500,000 for angel funding. Because VCs do not write small checks. For them, they have to be able to come in at 3, 4, 10 million, $20 million. Typically $3 to $6 million Series A. Because they're not looking for how good you look. They're looking for, do you have traction? And traction is what? Some proof that dog is eating the dog food. Some confirmation that people actually are willing to buy. So they need to see traction. They will not, unless you're already famous, they're not going to come in just because who you are. And also they need to see an exit. Because venture capitalists, unlike angel investors, are not investing their own money. They're investing other people's money. So other people being limited partners which want to get the money back. So there's a 10-year period in which they take money from LP, invest in companies, harvest them, and exit the company and return the money back to LPs, keeping a portion for themselves. There are also then things like strategic investors. These are companies. Many companies have strategic investment arms because they want to invest in companies which can help them sell their own products. Like Intel has invested over $1.5 billion in companies which improve the need for Intel products. There are companies who may want to learn about your channel. You want to learn about your technology. You're a company doing business in Brazil. No, they, when I invest in Houston in the board meetings, learn about Brazilian market dynamics. So it could be other motivation they will have. In my last company, Bitzer Mobile, we started with $75,000 coming from founders. We hired some offshore developers. We got to a point something was moving. That allowed me to get $330,000 from 4 angel investors in Silicon Valley, which allowed me to hire full-time employees, build a team, got our first customer. When we got our first customer, then a VC came in with $2.5 million. And then we built the product, then a strategic investor came in and put $1.5 million. So this is exactly how companies seek money in chunks over time from different sources. It's not always the VC. So point is that you need to know that there's a right source and a right time and the right process to follow to raising money. Point is that you want to raise money not in one chunk, but in small chunks. Suppose you do some financial modeling and turns out you need $7 million before you can make the product be profitable. Obviously, it'll be silly to go raise $7 million, not that anybody will give it to you. So your point is to raise money in chunks, enough to get to the next proof point or de-risking point when you have de-risked the company. So in the beginning, there's a lot of risk. You don't know if idea makes sense, do you know the business model makes sense, if the technology will work, will market buy it. 9 months later, now you have a prototype. So technology risk is taken out. So you have de-risked the company. Now the value of the company has jumps. It's called a value inflection point. So this time, every time you raise money, you issue shares. You're selling shares in the company, ownership, stocks. So first time you sell shares to institutional investor, that's called Series A. And just because second time when you sell shares to the investors, it may have a different price or different other things attached to it. You cannot call it the same thing, so you call it Series B. Third time you do Series C. So this indicates that these shares are at a different price than the previous one we just issued. So normally companies don't rise in a linear fashion. Companies jump like this. They go through value inflection points. So in the beginning, you had just an idea. Then you finally got a prototype. Then you got 5 customers paying you. So these things happen in chunks, value inflection point. So you raise enough money to hit the next value inflection point, plus some buffer to raise money, typically 6 months. So if your next value inflection point is in 11 months, you want to make sure you have enough money for 11 plus 6, 17 months. So this is why you need a financial model. So you can estimate how much money you need, how many people you need to hire, and that gives you an idea that how much time it will take, how much money should I be asking for. So this is a long way to make the following point, that all startups need to have a financial model. Financial model teaches you, tells you how much money do you need, how much cash you need to get to the next inflection point, how long would it take, how many people you need to hire, how much money to ask for. Because if you haven't computed this, and you say, how much money are you raising? Oh, you're raising $1 million. Why? Oh, it's good for a year. That's a really dumb answer. There's a famous Chinese saying, don't try to leap a canyon in 2 bounds. You have to leap all the way across the canyon. So you have to compute. How much do I need to get over the de-risking point? So this is why you need to do the financial model, because this is your business plan. If it doesn't make sense, then you should be careful not to even enter this endeavor. So timing-wise, you notice that most startups go through this period. You start, you get all excited, you're very excited. Above the dotted line is happiness, below the dotted line is unhappiness. Very soon after you start, you fall into this trough of sorrow. And you stay in the trough of sorrow for a long, long time. Sometimes you get excited because something beginning to work, you get all excited, but it doesn't work. If you're lucky, you'll hear a clicking sound. That's called product market fit. If you're lucky enough to have the product market fit, there's a chance you'll begin to scale and get back into the happy mode. Most entrepreneurs spend most of their life in the trough of sorrow. The question is, why do we do it? Because there's always hope. We are hopeful people. We think it's going to turn around. And that drives us. We have some big vision which we want to pursue. So this is a difficult life. That's why you need to really ask yourself, is it for me? Because not everybody can survive and sustain themselves. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the product market fit in terms of
So question is product market fit, how does it relate to the funding? And the answer is, it doesn't directly relate. Obviously, if you have found the product market fit, funding is easier. But funding is more depending on able to tell a compelling story. Even if you don't have product market fit yet, but you can connect the dots and tell a story. So my current company, TeleSense, it took me 4 years, by the way, to come up with a compelling story. But as soon as I did, I got the term sheet. So we were doing IoT devices, sensors and software. Who needs it? So finally, after trying many, many things, I finally came to a story that this is a data play. So I'm focusing on post-harvest grain storage. So when you harvest your crop, corn, wheat, soybean, you store them because what is the right time to sell them. Once you store this thing, it never improves in quality. It always goes downhill. The question is, do you know what the quality would be 2 months out, 2 weeks out, 1 year out? If you knew, perhaps you can then decide to store it or sell it now, accept this bid, move it, blend it, what? We are providing data using then some AI on top of it to help farmers and growers make decisions about when to store it, when to sell it. And this data, once collected, is useful to banks and insurance companies. It's useful to farmers and growers and storage company. So I have a story that more data you collect, more useful and intelligent you become. This story took long time for me to develop, after many, many tries. So once you have a story, people will buy the story. I don't have a product market fit yet, but I have a story which looks like I'll get there. Fund me now. So you have to tell a story. So product market fit is when a need in the market meets a product which is just good enough to be useful. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's good enough to be useful and people want to use it. This is what you're seeking. That is a very powerful stage to arrive at. So because when you reach investors, especially VCs, they expect you to have several checklist points. They expect you to have covered a set of A players, the co-founders. They want you to have a strong vision. Because if you're just looking for a job and they want them to pay for it, that doesn't excite them. What is your vision? What are you trying to do? In my mind, we are trying to disrupt one of the oldest industry, which is food, through disruptive software and data, so farmers can make more money and we waste less food. That's a strong, worldwide, powerful, believable vision. Because this is one industry which has not been touched by software yet, and we are about to do that. So having identified a real unmet need, proving it with some traction, having a core team, having clarity who needs you, and knowing your key metrics like your customer acquisition cost, your unit economics, your gross margins. When you begin to speak this language, that's when you become investor ready. Most people approach investors without having this clarity of mind or knowing these key metrics. So it's very important to have that clarity before it could be useful. So whether unit economics is on a single unit basis, what are the economics? For example, you're running a restaurant. What's your revenue per table per night? What's your cost of labor and goods, foods per, what is your gross profit per table per night? That's kind of clarity tells investors that you have thought through the business and different mechanics, different pieces. CAC is customer acquisition cost. If you're using online advertising like Google AdWords, how many clicks before people convert? What's the cost per click? So able to compute some number that if the cost per click is $1 and 10 people who come to my website, 8 of them actually buy something. So you can compute a customer acquisition cost. LTV is lifetime value. What's the customer's lifetime value? What's the churn rate? How many people drop off every month, every year? So what's left? So these are some metrics you should be comfortable with. If all of these things look mysterious to you, you're not VC ready. You could be angel ready, you could be friends and family ready, but not VC ready. In a jazz quartet, there is no conductor. There's nobody teaching you what to play, but everybody is an expert in their own instrument. And when they play together, good music comes out. That's what a good team looks like. So you have to assess, do we have the right team which sings together, which makes good music without a lot of instruction? The reason before you approach the investor is you have to make sure who needs you more. Everybody needs you, we know that, but there's some sliver who needs you more than other people. Able to understand and articulate the sliver who needs you more is super critical. That shows the investor that you have clarity of mind to understand where to spend your little dollars you have and how to approach that sliver. So the unit economics, like I mentioned, based on your business will be whatever you're making. On a hospital, they usually talk about per bed. Bed is your unit. So they talk about profit per bed, expense per bed, how many beds we have. In a car rental business, it'll be unit economics per car or per table. So you need to know in your business, what is the unit? So in my business now, a grain storage bin is a unit. A typical bin, 5,000 metric tons. So I'm doing the unit economics per bin. What's the cost? What's the profit? How much do you make? So you need to figure out what is the unit in your business, which may be hard to figure out. Then turning out your customer acquisition cost based on the churn. So point I'm making is that before you approach an investor, you have to do some computation. You have to figure out what is the unmet need, who has this unmet need, what are they willing to spend to solve it. And when you get to that stage and you have validated, I typically say you have to talk to between 50 and 100 users and customers before your idea gels into your mind. Because first 15 and 20 people, they will not understand what you're saying and you'll say, these guys just don't get it. The next 20 people you'll talk to, you'll begin to say, I think I'm not saying it correctly. By the time you get to about 45th to 55th conversation, then it begins to sink in, maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense. Only then this transformation in your head happens. So if you haven't gone through this about 40 to 60 conversation with customer, your ideas is not crisp yet. It takes that many conversations to really understand the problem. One of the problems with most entrepreneurs is we jump on the solution without fully understanding the problem. The hardest part in being an entrepreneur is to take the time to really understand the problem. Once you understand the problem, solution is not the hardest part. But understanding a problem from all direction is hard. Let me ask you this. How much would you pay for this box? What would be a fair price? $2? Because, it's hard to put a number on it because you don't know what the heck it is. Maybe it's $1 million. We don't know. Is it $2? The point I'm making is this is how your company looks to investors, especially to angel investors. Venture capitalists have army of interns and MBAs who are computing spreadsheets for them, but an angel investor doesn't know. So how do you raise money for an angel investor? When he gives you $1 million, how many shares do you give them? It depends on what the value of the company is. So that's why we use something called a convertible note. Convertible note is a loan. So you say, Mr. Investor, this is my idea. Say, I like the idea. I'm going to invest $100,000. So you say, okay, this $100,000 is a convertible note. It's a 2, 3, 4-page document. And say, good, here's the money. When later on, when we do a VC puts in money, this loan will convert into the shares automatically. So this is what it is. You don't have to negotiate a whole bunch of things. It's a loan. It's a simple, minimal legal fees. And you can use this to raise money from angel investors. Now it has two problems. One problem is, if I'm the angel investor, I'm taking more risk than the VC because VC is going to put money like 9 months later. I'm putting money now. Why I'm getting the same price as the VC? I took more risk. Second problem is, okay, I put in this, let's say $500,000. I don't know how much money I was going to get, how much, but $500,000, maybe I'll get 5% ownership of the company, maybe 10%, depending on the value of the company. But company became too successful. And my $500,000 only got me like 1%. Well, hello, you wouldn't be as successful without my $500,000. So suppose I'm the investor, you're the entrepreneur. Okay? You come to me and you want me to put some money in. The discussion we're going to have is, okay, I'm putting $500,000 into a company. How much share are you going to give me? Yeah, are you going to give me 10% ownership, 5%, 20%, 50%? How do you know? Answer is, well, we don't know, because we don't know what is the value of the company. We are not expert in putting a value on the company. So what we say between you and I'm going to give you $500,000. You're going to give me a convertible note. So this is a loan to you, secured by the intellectual property of the company. And it's when you'll do a price round with a VC, when they're going to put a number on the value of the company, my $500,000 will convert at the same time the VC is getting his shares. Okay. So this is the entrepreneur, and this is the investor. So investors gives you money, you're going to give them some shares. So unless you can put a value on the number, so company has some value, I'm giving $500,000. What percent of the company do I own? Well, it depends what the valuation of the company was. If we cannot agree on the valuation of the company, I don't know how many shares to give you. So I'm solving this problem by saying, don't worry about it. I will find out how many shares will I get next year when a VC will put a value on X, then we'll compute how many shares should I get for my $500,000. There's some percentage, suppose the company started with, let's say, so yeah, it'll be percentages, but the way it works is in a company is that suppose company start and let's say issues 4 million shares. Then later on, an investor comes in and company, let's say, was valued at $4 million. Let's make it more interesting. Company was valued at $8 million. Since it had 4 million shares outstanding, this means if company value was this, my share price is what? 8 million divided by 4 million shares, $2 a share. So let's say I'm raising now $1 million investment. So somebody's putting in $1 million, how many shares should I issue them? Since I now know the price, $2 a share, $1 million, I'm going to issue them 500,000 shares. My total shares outstanding are now 4.5 million. And this person owns 500,000 shares out of 4.5. So the percent this investor owns in this example will be, who has a calculator? Who's going to compute this number for me? 11%. So investor will get 11% ownership of the company by getting 500,000 shares for the $1 million investor is putting in. You don't market it. This is when an investor looks at a company like a VC, they run their internal models to figure out what is the company valuation. It's usually determined by what percent of the company they need to own to justify it, to make it worth their while. So they compute backward, and I can show you how they compute it, but I don't want to bore too many people, but if many people want, we can do that a little bit later. How do they compute it? There's a way to compute it. And they basically tell you what the company valuation should be. Now you can negotiate with them. They say this is too low, too high, but you arrive at a pre-money valuation. What is the company worth today? Because this is like a painting. When you have a famous painting, what is the painting worth? Who decides what the painting is worth? Answer is, nobody knows. It's not the square footage of the painting. It's not number of colors used. It's what a willing buyer and a willing seller agree to sell the painting at. So these things are not, there's not, if you had a restaurant, you can do discounted cash flow because there's a cash flow history. There's no cash flow history. It's based on a bunch of assumptions, and there's a method how they come up with a valuation. So you're not on Shark Tank. You don't compute a value, say, I'll give you 10% of the company for X million dollars. No, you're not in Shark Tank. So who's valuing the company? Investor values the company. So investor looks at all those factors and say, what is the company valued at? If I put X dollars and I assume it's going to take this long for me to exit the company, will it be worth my while? So a VC may say, look, unless, like I know Sequoia, for example, says, unless we can make $100 million on a startup, let's not even bother. So they compute what percent they need to own. After how many years, how much can the company sell for? If they cannot make themselves X dollars, they say, let's pass on that one, let's find the next one. So they will come up with some valuation based on their internal analysis and matrix, and you have to then negotiate, accept, or reject. So previous funds you raised already, they will be there. You raise them either at founding from friends and family or You maybe did a low price round yourself, whatever. That is good to know, but that doesn't matter. Current investor will look at, what is the right value of this company given all the things we know about the company? By convertible note is a quick way to take money from unsophisticated non-VC investors so that you don't have to get in this long discussion about what is the value of the company. So it's a loan which will convert when somebody smarter than us puts a value on the thing. So you understood correctly. The issue with that is, well, if you do that, then I'm taking more risk because I'm giving you money now. If VC going to give you money, let's say 9 months later, 6 months later, so you solve that problem by agreeing on a discount on whatever price VC will pay, I will pay less than that. So a typical discount is 20%. So if you're raising money from VC, let's say in November, future, at $1 a share, my $500,000 I gave you will convert at 20% less than, it will be converted 80 cents a share. So I'll get few more shares. So that's how they typically compensate for people who give you money earlier than other investors are giving. That's typical. Now, if you're going to close, like I just signed a note with an investor, that if I'm closing my Series A within 60 days, they get no discount. But if it takes longer than 60 days, then they get 20%. If you're going to take more than a year, that you can even go higher than 20. But yes, something like that. But it's not very complicated. You agree on some discount. As you issue more shares, the denominator keeps going up. So suppose you were the founder, you had, in this example, 4 million shares. And you had 4 million out of 4 million, you had 100% of the company. When you issued additional shares, denominator went up, your percent went down, but number of shares are the same. Yeah, in other words, you're not selling your own shares. You just make more shares out of thin air. You can start a company with 100 shares. The only negative part is when you offer your new hotshot VP of sales, and you're going to give him, he negotiates 2% of the company, then he goes home, his friends ask, hey, you got a new job? Yeah, pretty happy about that, new startup. How many shares you got? 2. 2 shares? Like, doesn't sound very exciting. So you start with, let's say, 2 million shares or 4 million shares, then 2% of that is 400,000 shares. That sounds like, yay, 200,000 shares, Tesla. So it's a total optics, how you do that. So typically, number I put down are typical number. When you start typically company, you start with let's say like 2, 4, 5, 10 million in that range. Maybe 4 to 5 million is a good number. But you and your lawyer will just come up with a reasonable number, which is normal, which is normally used.
So you mentioned that we secure this as a loan by securing our intellectual property of the company, right? So at the stage of angel funding, so what sort of intellectual property do we promise? Is it just the idea and the plan that we would do for the next level?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the nature of this intellectual property? And answer is anything and everything from source code to any product samples to any patents or trademarks. This is all intellectual property. So in case you cannot raise money and people have given you whatever $1 million, $500,000, they own all that if you're going out of business. So there's a second problem, because if you become too successful, the company valuation when you raise is too high, then you may not get enough percent ownership of the company, but it was you and your money which made it get successful. So avoid that problem, you negotiate a cap on valuation. In other words, even if the VCs are willing to pay, let's say, $50 million pre-money valuation, you have a cap of $5 million. So your, whatever, $500,000 will convert at most at that price. So this protects the convertible note holders. If the company is too successful, they still get some meaningful portion ownership for their money. So the point was that if you become too successful, suppose you put in this example, $500,000. Remember, in this example, this angel investor put $1 million and they got 500,000 shares. That example I give over there. They put $1 million, they get 500,000 shares for that. But let's say the guy put $1 million, but his company became very successful. So when Series A was raised, the pre-money valuation was $49 million. Company was so successful. So let's use an easier number. Let's say $50 million. Pre-money valuation, $50 million. So what is the share price going to be? Share price will be, there were 4 million shares, so my share price will be now $50 divided by 4, $12.50. So for my $1 million, how many shares I'm going to get? Not too many shares. Who's good at division? Divide my $1 million at this share price. How many shares will I get instead of 500,000 shares? You know, you all have phones. All I'm asking you to do is take your phone out, divide a number for me. It's not hard. Okay, 80,000. And 80,000 out of the total number of shares, 4 million plus the new shares being issued, which is, my point is, I'm going to get like 1% ownership of the company. And I was hoping to get something much bigger than that, 11% in the last example. Now I'm going to get only 1%, and I'm pissed off. Because I gave you the initial money, because of me you became so successful, so why I'm getting only 1% ownership in the company? This is where the cap comes in. Cap says, even if VCs are willing to give you 50 million valuation, my cap is, let's say, 5 million or 8 million. So my price will be based on that number. So I get at least 3-4% of the company. So when my point is, this convertible note, there are only two things you negotiate. Well, maybe interest rate. But you negotiate a discount rate and a cap, and you're done. So you don't have to have a long conversation. When you raise money with a price round with a VC, then it's a long conversation. Many things have to be discussed. So cap is, the industry standard norm. What is the common practice these days? When companies are coming out of Y Combinator, the typical cap is 8 million. So unless there's some unusual circumstance applied, that will be in that range. But I'm on a board of a company which is making autonomous vehicle, and the cap on the first note we took is 58 million. Company has raised $30 million, all on convertible note. And now we're doing a Series A now. But doing Series A now, company already has 350 employees. So there are some unusual corner cases here. So another invention is SAFE. SAFE is like a convertible note, except it's not a note. It's not a loan. Invented by Y Combinator, is preferred by entrepreneurs, not so much by investors, because they have less leverage. But SAFE stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity. So it's not a loan technically, it doesn't have an interest rate, and you cannot demand it back as money back. So this is with agreement that I'm putting money in which will automatically convert into future equity. So this became very popular, and many of time you can use a SAFE. You want to learn about SAFE, you go to ycombinator.com, and they have this, you can download the paperwork from there, you can see how they work. So how do VCs work? How do they make money? Let's understand them a little bit. So the whole VC business model is simple. You find interesting and unique seeds, you provide some nurturing and make sure they grow up to be plant, and then you cut the tree and sell the lumber. Because the whole point is, they have taken other people's money. They have to return the money back to their investors within that 10-year period. So if you have a great company, but it's not likely to be exit in the time remaining, they may not be interested in you. Because they have to close shop. It's like going to a restaurant near midnight. They'll seat you, but the kitchen is closing at midnight, so you better hurry up. Point is, these VCs are looking for traction. Traction is higher up you are. If you have actual sales going on, you have a high traction. If you don't have sales going on, you at least have people who are testing your idea, testing your product, who are willing to buy it once they're ready. If you don't have that, maybe you have people who are willing to test your product. If you don't have that, you at least have people who are saying good things about you. If you don't even have that, you have no traction, do not approach a VC. You need to be somewhere on the traction ladder before you approach a VC. So how does it work? We did that on the whiteboard, but let's look at it. Investors give you money, you give them shares, Except the shares these investors get are slightly different flavor than shares you get when you started the company. These are called preferred shares. So shares come in two flavors, common share and preferred shares. When you start a company, you get common shares. Any friends and family you're putting money in the beginning, they get common shares. Later on, when an investor put real money, they want shares which has special privileges attached to them. Not because you want to give it to them, but they demand it. The special privileges give them control of the company, voting rights, board of directors participation and control, veto rights to the future types of investors you may want to bring in. Something called liquidation preferences, which tells them if companies get sold, they want to take some money off the table before anybody can touch it. They want to have anti-dilution rights in case you, instead of going up and up and up, you have a valuation of the company goes down. They want to protect themselves in that situation. So all these things together, what's called, makes them preferred shares. So the common shares and the preferred shares. People who put real money, they get preferred shares. So just to take an example, let's say a company, VC came and they looked at the company, there's a company is valued at $3 million. Now they put in $2 million into the company. What percent do they own? Some people are saying 40. Any other answers? Well, 40 is correct. So $3 million is your pre-money valuation before the money came in. Next day, $2 million came into the bank account. Now the company is worth $5 million because $3 million of intellectual property and pre-money valuation plus the fresh cash. So the words like pre-money, post-money will be used, and you're correct. They own 2 out of 5, so they own 40%. So my point here is that do not try to put a value on the company, because sometimes they'll ask you, well, what is the valuation? What are you expecting? No matter what you say will be used against you. Your answer should be, sir, I'm good at building companies. I have no idea how to value it. Please tell me. That's what you do well. Because whatever you say, it'll go downhill from that number. It never goes up. So don't say it. And if you say too high a number, then they say, well, this guy's going to be too difficult. Maybe we don't have. Suppose you say, my company's worth $100 million. They'll just walk away because from 100 million to bring you down to 5 million valuation, that's too high a journey. So you're best off not saying anything. They say, I don't know. So it's normal these days, unless you're already famous for other reasons. When you're starting a company, you're raising angel round. By the time you raise Series A, you probably have given up 40 to 45% of the company. Well, 30 to 45% of the company, depending on how hot you were and how many people were chasing you. By the time you've done Series B, you may have given like 50 to 60% of the company. So there are some industry norm things. Of course, there are special cases, but normal cases are like something like that. So don't be shocked. Now somebody's trying to take 80% of the company, that's terribly wrong. You're trying to think I'm only going to give up only 10, 15% of the company and take Series A. You are, either you have 2 Nobel Prize or you're smoking something funny. So this is possible, not impossible. When Facebook raised their first Series A, they gave up, there were 30 VCs chasing Facebook. So when they took $12.1 million from Excel, rumored is that they got 100 million pre-money valuation. So only gave up 12% or 10% because they had 30 VCs chasing them. So it was, when you have a multi people chasing you, you can have this conversation. So my point is that this is how VCs model work. They take money from limited partners. Limited partners are large pools of money, like Harvard University Endowment Fund, State of Wisconsin Pension Fund, J. Paul Getty Foundation. So these large pools of money, they have to invest in a diversified portfolio. One of the asset classes is venture capital, after private equity and real estate and stocks and bonds and currency and commodities. So their idea is they give the money to a VC fund. It's a partnership managed by general partners, GPs. Could be 2, 4, 6, 8 partners. When they take money from LPs and they invest them into startup companies, and idea is to harvest them, grow them, exit them, return the money, keep 20% for yourself, and take 2% of the fund size as your management fee, so you can pay big fat salaries and travel first class. So this is the VC model. They are not necessarily investing their own money. Sometimes they're asked to put a little bit, but normally investing other people's money. So this is why, suppose you start a company, you take a VC money, they will not let you have a small exit. See, if you get an offer for $10 million, you're saying, I own 50% of the company, that's $5 million, that's pretty good, I'll take it. They won't let you take it because it was a waste of time for them. They have to see a big enough exit to make it worth their while. That's why they'll have the control through preferred shares, so they can control when can you exit, how you can exit. So don't be surprised by that. So when you take the VC money, then you're aiming for a big home run. Even if you don't get it, but you're aiming for it. So that's why it's very hard to get VC money. A typical partner in a VC fund sees about 1,000 business plans come his or her way. They probably seriously look at about 100 of them, which comes from some referral, somebody they know and trust, an entrepreneur, a professor, another VC, a lawyer, and they do some diligence on only about 20 of them, making 3 to 4 offers, hoping to make 1 or 2 investments per year per partner. So the chances are, it's not easy. You have to be very prepared with all the things I've been talking about this morning so you can get their attention. It's not easy. So this is why when you want to look for funding, you research the investor, get to know what they like, what is their background, what do they invest in. You send something like a one-page executive summary to see, do they even care about this area you're working in? If they show interest, you're looking for a face-to-face meeting so you can impress them with your command of the market dynamics, your command of the technology, and customer insights. They're looking for deep customer insights. If you can prove that, you can intrigue them, and you can, over time, then they begin to meet with you slowly. It's a dating period which lasts from 2 to 6 months. So typically it takes 3 to 6 months to do your homework, get all your financial model, your pitch ready. Takes a couple of months to present to multiple VCs. It's not uncommon to pitch 30, 40, 50 different VCs before a couple of them will show interest. It's not uncommon. That's why it takes months. And then it takes another, if you're lucky, they do the diligence on you. If you're lucky, you get a term sheet. Term sheet is what? It's a non-binding offer to invest. Once you agree on the terms and conditions and sign it, now starts the legal diligence. Now they want to check all the things you've been telling them, are they really true or not? Your formation, your financials, your board structure, all the things. And if you pass all that, then there's a closing. That's the money transfers to your bank account. So this process could be easily 6 months long. So this is why you want to be able to very crisply describe what problem you're solving to get their attention, and stop telling people how it works. Many of you are tempted to explain the technology. We're not there yet. Let me see if I even lean in. Do I even care? Then I'll ask you how it works. So what is the structure of this investor pitch? Let's talk about that. Now, I'd like to start with a team slide earlier. Some people say team slide comes later when I care about what you're saying. A team slide is usually good to say that you have a credible and compelling team. Especially if they have relevant experience, put them up front. Then you talk about what is the unmet need. Every company in the world is there to solve an unmet need. What is the unmet need and how did you see it? What unique insights you had when you saw it? What are the alternatives people have? Your customers, that's your competition. You describe, and then you talk about your solutions. You notice 1, 2, 3 is about educating the investor about the market you're serving. They may not know what is streaming data means. They may not know what are the issues in human resource department. So you have to educate them about market dynamics, the unmet need, and how did you validate it. Once you have done that, then you talk about your solution, why us, why now, what's unique about you. Then you talk about how big is the market size for what you're doing. And answer is, your answer of the market size should be somewhere between 1 billion and 10 billion. If you're showing a market size more than 10 billion, you're not segmenting it right because you're attaching some sliver inside that big market. What's your sliver? If the market is less than 1 billion, it becomes less and less attractive to VCs because small markets, you make 1 or 2 mistakes, you can miss the market. They want to invest in large and growing markets. And then you talk about your go-to-market strategy. What price, what channel, what partnerships do you need? What's your business model? How do you make money? Is subscription, is freemium, is ad-based? You're selling widgets? What have you done so far in the last 6 months? What are you planning to accomplish in the next 18 months? What are the major milestones? Then based on that, what are your financial assumptions and your financial projections? This is when you want to impress them that not only I have an idea in item number 1 through 4, but I know how to make a business out of it. So if you've done a good job 1 through 4, but you miserably fail on financial projection and assumption, then they know that why should I give you a few $1 million because you don't know what to do with it. So this is where you want to work with a CFO or financial expert to create the proper financial model. And number 10 is your ask. What are you asking? What do you need? And what do you need? And it takes you from what stage of the company to what stage of the company. You're de-risking the company. So your answer will be, we need $1.2 million so we can get to our first 10 deployed customers and set up our first channel partner in the next 11 months. Something like that. So not just the money, but what does the money takes you to what stage? Those are the 10 topics you need to cover in your pitch. That's why it's not easy to come up with the whole pitch on a weekend. You need several weeks to debate, discuss, polish with your co-founders till you can arrive at a crisp presentation. You have to tell a story. The story is like all Indian movies, the same story. You saw a girl, you liked the girl did not like you, bunch of bad things happened, then things really went downhill, then everything worked out. You got to tell that story. And story in the investor mind sounds similar, that you saw a crack in the wall. Because of your unique background and unusual customer insight, you knew how to exploit the crack unlike anybody else, because they don't have the same background. And you figured out how to exploit the thing and make money out of it. You confirmed your assumption with a whole bunch of people, and they validated the assumption. You studied the competition, and now you have a game plan. This is your product plan. That's how you're going to make money, and we know exactly where to go and why. That's the story. If you can build that story and tell it in a compelling way, you will get their attention. Now, since all this thing I just talked about really translate to 3 things in investor mind. They only hear 3 things. Is there money to be made? Are these the people who can make me money? And how much money will I make? So everything I just said translates to those 3 buckets. So that's what you want to keep in mind. That's the only reason they're investing. They want to be able to see a way to make a lot of money. Are you telling that story? So that's why when you go from idea discovery to prototype to product development to building and scaling, you need money in chunks. And this money comes from different sources based on the size of the check. So you don't start necessarily with VCs. You start based on how much money are you looking for, what's the right source, and you slowly build the story and validate the story, add more data till you become more and more compelling. So executive summary, which 1 or 2 page document, these are the 12 topics you may want to cover. Now you don't have to cover every topic. You may even say 1 sentence or 2 about these topics, but it's very similar to what I just talked about for investor pitch. So very similar topics. You're trying to basically say, we have an idea, we have validated our assumptions, we know there's a money to be made, we know who needs it, and we know how to build a business. So I'm going to finish with this last chapter because we're going to run on time, so we have a few minutes. So I'm going to show you what a typical pitch may look like. And it starts with this slide. And this is the most important slide in your whole slide deck. There are only 2 slides when you'll get 100% attention from your audience. One is the financial projection, which is, by the way, not a cute chart going up to the right. That's really stupid. This is like showing me, stop showing me a picture of newly born babies. They all look alike. So every company looks like this. So don't show me that. Show me the spreadsheet. I want to be able to see the P&L, your assumption, and this is the second slide. These are the 2 slides you'll get full attention. Why? Because this is the slide they're trying to figure out, like, who are you? Which compartment of my brain I should open where the words will go in? And if you don't open the right compartment, you'll be in slide 5 and 6 and still trying to figure out, what kind of company is that? Is it a software company? I don't think so. I think they do services. Maybe it's not services. Maybe they do have some hardware too. I don't know. What do they do? And they have missed everything you said. Most of you will skip over the slide. You'll give like 1 second to 2 seconds on this slide. That's a huge mistake. This is the slide when you want to open the right compartment of the brain, set the context. So the rest of the story will make sense. I even overdo on this slide. I mean, my current company, my slide 0 would be food industry, grain specifically, has not been touched by digitization and software. So much grain is wasted every year. What if there was a way to use IoT technology to monitor not only what's going on today in your grain silos, but what the quality will be several weeks, several months out? Can you predict? If you could, can you make smart decisions? We have used AI and IoT to solve this problem. We have proven our technology with $2 billion companies already, and we are building a team to disrupt this market. I'm here to raise $3 million. Some of you will say, wait a minute, you just told the whole damn story. Yeah. It's not a surprise birthday party like at the end say, I need $3 million. Everybody's shocked. No. You tell me now. Because the kind of question they will ask based on this will be, if I was going to raise $500,000, they'll ask different questions. I'm raising $10 million, they'll have different questions. I've set the context. Rest of my presentation is to justify what I just told you. You cannot skip this slide. This is the most important slide in your deck. I like to start with team. Why are we relevant? If you have advisors, that helps you complement your. So we know a lot about wireless, networking, sensors. We don't know jack about food or grain. But I got advisory board members who's a professor of grain technology from Purdue. I got a retired executive vice president of Safeway on my advisory board. So suddenly it looks like I know something about food. So you round up the team with some relevant advisors. Then you talk about the unmet need. What did you see? How did you see it? How did you validate it? You talk about the unmet need. You talk about the market segmentation. What's the landscape? Who other people trying to use what product? How is it working? Is there a sliver which is unmet, which needs you more than any other people? You have to be able to identify that sliver. Persona, it's called customer persona sometimes. And then what's the market dynamics? Who's the competition? How are they solving the problem? What's not being well solved where you come in? Then you talk about your solution. So you don't start with your solution, set the stage. Then talk about your solution and say what's unique. Show some demo, show some diagrams, show some screenshots. What's your unfair advantage? Why us? Why now? If you cannot answer why us, why now, people will have trouble swallowing whatever you're presenting. You have made some unusual special alliances. You used to work for Anheuser-Busch, and your father owns some service restaurant, so you know a lot about that part of the business. Okay, that's your unfair advantage. Then how do you stack up against other people who are trying to solve the same problem? Nice thing about chart like this is you get to pick the axes. You can put the axis and y-axis which make you differentiate as long as those axes, people care about those axes. So see, how do you differentiate? So you're educating your audience. Then how do you make money? What's your business model? What do you sell? What's your gross margin? This shows the investor that you have thought about the business aspect, not just your idea. Then what's your go-to-market strategy? Which segment are you going after and why? What partnership and alliances you need to make to be successful? And then your financial projection, and you show your main financial assumptions. So this is, then finally you finish with your status and timeline, and what's your profit point. Could be something like that. We're raising initial money here, we're raising $4 million now. These are some of our major milestones, how the employee growth will happen. So you give them a good snapshot, how the company is going to evolve. And that's it. That's how you build your investor presentation. So I just want to show you what we're going to do in today thing. We only have a few minutes. So the most important information you want to communicate is this kind of information when you meet with investors. That you understand the dynamics of your market. It's a large and growing market. You're uniquely qualified to serve it because of your background. You have some traction, you have some proof points. You understand what are the 3 to 5 steps you're going to take, and you want to know how much you need and what milestone you can hit with that money. This is the story you're pitching. You need to be able to get this down. This should be in your, without any notes, you should be able to rattle through these things in your investor pitch. So what we're going to do this afternoon, with the help of mentors, you will be building your compelling presentation. You will be giving this pitch to your mentors. Because it's only, we have a 10-minute time limit. You're working towards a 10-minute pitch by 4 o'clock to a panel of investors. So you may have longer presentations. What's going to happen starting lunchtime, you're going to sit down, you're going to address these 8 points. So the presentation you need to prepare starting after lunch is covering these 8 points. Like your slide 0, which is your name and what are you, why are you here, who's the team, what problem you're solving, what's your customer persona, who wants this, what's your solution, how do you better than other people, how do you make money, what traction do you have. So these are the 8 points you want to try to cover in 10 minutes. Seems hard, but it can be done. And your mentors will work with you to help you clean up your slides so you can effectively pitch this. That's the exercise after lunch. So my whole point of this presentation is that it's the clarity of mind which you're trying to achieve. If you have clarity of mind, you don't have to use a lot of words. And pitching is common sense. You're trying to explain your business. Is there money to be made? Why are you doing it? So if you can master that today, you have gotten your money's worth. So a lot of the details are in the books I gave you. You should check them out. But more you prepare, luckier you will become.